All right, this is mostly for the recording, but grab a block, and if you have a towel, you'll be fine. If you have a yoga strap, you'll be fine. But what I grabbed for this practice is a pair of leggings, and this is a stretchy pair of leggings to use for this core practice. All right, so my name is Ariele. I'm a physical therapist and I've been teaching yoga. This is 2021. I've been teaching yoga for 20 years this year, so a long time. And I'm going to weave into this class the physical therapy exercises that I teach a lot of my patients and the principles that I teach a lot of my patients with the core stuff that I know and love from yoga. And so one of the things that I aim to do with this class is to keep this class really safe for our necks. So you might hear me give a little extra cues for neck safety than you might hear in some other core classes, okay? So I am thrilled for those of you watching, and I appreciate you all so much. And because this is yoga, we want to remember that one of the first principles of yoga is about being in the present moment. So take a deep breath, recognize what that feels like to you. Know that the practice of yoga and any kind of physical exertion, which yoga does not have to be physical exertion, but we're going to exert ourselves a little bit today, um, can bring up some interesting and sometimes challenging sensations. And so these are really profound opportunities to notice sensation and not get caught up in it, and to just be in the present moment. Another major principle of yoga, which distinguishes this from a regular core class or abs class, is that we are aiming to slow down the jumble of thoughts that are going through our heads. And that's really it. And if you can achieve a slowing down, and ideally these still moments where you're just fully present and you're fully in the moment and you're not thinking about the future or the past where our thoughts are usually jumbling into, you've achieved the state of yoga. And let's use the physical layer of who we are as humans to have that experience. Sound good? Centering yourself, get into a position that is comfortable for you. I'm going to be sitting here on my block, and you could be in a chair, you could be on your back, any position that's comfortable for you. I'm sitting cross-legged because that's comfortable for me. I'm going to bring one hand to the belly, one hand over the heart. Allow the breath to be easy, smooth, and in and out through the nose. If you don't feel totally comfortable closing your eyes, you can keep the eyelids heavy. Keep just a little crack at the bottom of the eyes and eyelids and gaze to the floor. Allow the jaw to be relaxed, back of the neck long. We commit to being in the present moment. We commit to this ongoing process, not necessarily a destination, of slowing down our thoughts. And we commit to creating the conditions of the challenges that allow us to practice those two things. Full breath. Let it all out. Palms together over your heart. Crack open your eyes and we'll soften the hands down into the lap. And let's move the block out of the way, but keep it kind of within arm's reach. And we're going to start with your towel, yoga strap, or leggings, as I've suggested, at the low part of your ribs. So you're still going to be seated, but maybe not on the block anymore if you started off on that. And you're going to hold both ends of the leggings. Now, what I'm really doing here is I'm substituting leggings for a strong TheraBand. And if you happen to have one of those strong resistance bands, you can use that to probably greater effect. I'm just using what I figure everybody has in the house. So we're going to be exhaling, rounding the spine, pushing into the strap or towel, band, or leggings. Inhale, neutral. Exhale. Hold the position, let a little more air out. Inhale, neutral. Exhale. Then you can exhale through the mouth like I'm doing. Add a little extra, big exhale. Inhale, neutral. And let's do 3 more just like that, either through the nose, which is actually really a potent way to practice breathing, or through the mouth. The reason why nasal breathing is so powerful is it literally helps to clear our sinuses, maintain clean passageways. The turbulence of the airflow through our nose is simple, but it keeps everything happy and healthy and cleared out. Last one. Your obliques, the muscles between the rib cage, are all connected, between the ribs, I should say, inside the rib cage. And find your way to neutral. Now, why did we start with that kind of funky move? It's not the biggest core move ever, is it? Well, one of the reasons is because, and I'm going to show this to you in kneeling quite briefly, for many of us, especially in the yoga world, if you stood like this for a long time, you may have gotten complimented on your posture, how good it is, kind of with that chest up position. But the reality is, this is hyperextension at the thoracolumbar junction. And what we want to practice is keeping the ring of the ribs over the ring of the pelvis. For a lot of us, we have to exaggerate in the other direction, cat pose. When you don't do that and you let the rib cage float forward, you're actually in a forward head position, even though it looks like you're well stacked. Here's why. All I did was change my rib cage. There's where my head actually was. So come back into your seated position if you got up like I did, and let's warm up the wrist a little bit so that we can be on our elbows or forearms and our hands a bit today without too much drama from the wrists. So start off by doing a little bit of the wave, left and right. And then shake out your hands, make fists and jazz hands, and you can also spin the hands in the air. Now notice that we're not doing a lot of passive stretching for the hands. It's much more useful to get the muscles around whatever joint you're trying to open up to also warm up, as opposed to just hanging in it, which can be a little painful. So now we're going to come onto our backs. Leggings aside. We're going to start with one of my favorite basic core moves that I've been teaching a lot recently. And that is pretty simple. You're going to exhale, feel your back flatten into the floor, and then draw one leg up. Knee is 90 degrees like you're marching, and it's right over your belly button, your high-waisted leggings, if you've got those on. And if you need to, you can always come a little higher or go a little further away. What you're going to do is take one or both hands, press kind of up and over, like you're trying to scoop over your knee. Flex your foot so the toes are coming up towards the eye, and just build a little bit of resistance here. As I push up towards the ceiling and kind of in the direction over the knee, I'm also simultaneously activating the muscles that suction the leg in a little bit. And I'm starting to feel it across the core, across my trunk. Now, if you feel it mostly in your hip flexors, set your foot down, flatten your back, feel your glutes activate, lift up, and just stretch it out a little side to side in Situ Bandhasana, our bridge pose. Lower down vertebra by vertebra. And try again. So if you really activate a lot of hip flexors here, meaning the muscles right in the fold of the hips, the things that will help you are flattening your back, turning your foot across your body, knee out a little bit. Those might be useful because you really want to feel it a bit more in the trunk, and also coming in a little bit slower and lower, low and slow, as they say. So ideally, we're going to hold this for 30 seconds, stay connected to breath, keep the neck relaxed, but trunk activated, and then shake it out and just get a nice little stretch on that side of the body. Active leg over there. Arms by the ears if that feels good, and then switch sides. Other leg up, foot flexed, knee at 90 degrees, over the belly button, over the pelvis, back is flat. Stay connected to breath. You're probably breathing more into the sides of your ribs now. And we're going to build on this a ton for this practice today. Pose spread, breath steady. Again, you have the option of going a little to the inside, taking a break if you feel like concentrating in the hip flexors, and really coming back to that back flat position. Even the shaking is a good thing if you're feeling that a bit. Okay, now let's go ahead and stretch that side out. Strong active leg. I'm pressing the back of my knee down into the ground. I'm flexing my toes up towards my eyes. Lots of activity here. And then bringing it back in, both legs up. Feet are flexed, toes are spreading if you've got that capacity. And you want to find the right position so your back is flat to the floor. Heels of the hands push up and over, like you're pushing up and over the bowl. And then you're going to cross. Let's do another 10 seconds, full breath here. Some of this is clearly like from the world of physical therapy, not clear exactly yoga shapes, but such a phenomenal complement to yoga. And if you think about that broader definition of yoga we started with, really absolutely can fit into that. Let your knees soften a bit. You're going to bring your hands to the front of the knees, and now you're going to push your knees into your hands for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Perfect. And we're going to follow it all up with one last little feeling here. Heels of the hands pushing up and over. Vector is forward and up where the ceiling and the wall meet. Back is flat. Breath is in the ribs. Oh, mama. Okay. And then grab behind your legs. Curl yourself up if you need to. Free up one of your hands for behind your head to support your neck. And just rock yourself up to seated. Sweep your legs over to one side. And we're going to go from this kind of mermaid sit, as I call it, where the two shins, the two legs are together, sitting on the side of your hips, up to a half side plank. So again, if your wrists need a little extra support, you can put your block under your hand and just curl your fingers around the block. So we're going to rise up and slowly lower down. Rise up. Feel free to also be on your forearm here. Connect, squeeze your glutes at the top. And please think about what I said in the beginning of this practice about how our ribs tend to flare forward and out. Root it down, rise. Connect with breath. I want you to feel how the outer hip, the shoulder, everything works in coordination. And then last one, rise, push it down, float your top leg Float that arm, maybe even by your ear. Do a little crunch here. Notice that the hand that is on the floor is fingers are really spread wide. Notice also that it's well in front of my shoulder. I'm not trying to stack. And the idea that you have to stack here is not exactly anatomically correct. Right now, we're creating a bit of an A-frame to get the stability from the parts of our body that are in contact with the floor. Last one. Go ahead and lower. Feel free to come onto your bag. Let's take a little rest here. Rock a bit side to side. And then when you are ready, switch sides. Starting off in this mermaid sit, we're going to get ourselves a little bit warm before we get into that more power move. So notice that my hand again is out in front of the shoulder. This is hard on the wrist, this 90 degrees. And most wrists naturally, even for a quote unquote advanced yogi, somebody who's been doing yoga a long time, actively my wrist doesn't go to 90 or doesn't usually go to 90, maybe if I'm extremely warmed up. So we're going to start with the knees stacked, moving the weight onto our shins, away from the side of the hips. Exhale. Inhale down. Exhale, rise. Inhale down. Connect with your own breath pace, or go a little faster or slower than your breath, whatever feels good. There's no mandatory way to do this. Rise it up a little extra, maybe flare your ribs towards the ceiling. Notice that I'm not saying towards the front. We're still keeping the rib cage stacked relative to the pelvis in this front to back plane, the sagittal plane. And then the next time you rise up, stay up, reach the arm, reach the leg, 2 different directions, and then curl it in. Hard to flare your ribs while you're curling it in. Now, if you're feeling this in the hip flexors, the reason is because you need to really round your spine. So let this front part of your pelvis kind of rock back. Don't bring your knee quite in towards the elbow. If you're feeling it too much there, try to breathe into the back of your body. You always have the option to be on your elbow here. You always have the option to put your hand on the block, which will give you either something to grip onto if you have it in the medium position, or at least just pour more of the weight into your legs. Both are great. Go ahead and lower down. Bring yourself onto your back. We used a lot of outer hip muscle just now. So sweep your knees a bit side to side. And we're going to put the block between the legs. I've chosen the middle position just because it's a little more comfortable. And I'm going to grab my leggings again, slide them under my back, around the sides. Hold onto the edges of the leggings, the ends of the leggings. Squeeze into the block. Flatten your back and rise up, keeping your ribs pushing into the strap that you have behind your back, right? The band, whatever that is that you have. Gentle squeeze into the block, pushing down into the base of the big toes and lower down. This is a very different bridge than I practiced for years. I always thought of bridge as a back bend. It's a really crappy back bend. So embrace it for what it is, which is a lot of legs and glutes possibilities. And you can even use it to activate your core, which is what we're doing. Feet root down, base of the big toes. Float up, feel your glutes, drop your ribs. Give your ribs a little bit of resistance by pulling up towards the ceiling if that doesn't bother your wrists. And then let's pulse. We're going to go down and up, down and up, down and up. And I'm trying to get my rib cage down before my butt, right? Like if I actually touch the floor, we can set the strap aside for now. I want you to feel every inch of your spine as you rise up and as you lower down, just like you were lowering a necklace back onto its velvet backing, an expensive one that you don't feel like paying for, right? So you're going to curl the tailbone, feel that lift, curl the sacrum, feel that lift, feel the rest of your buttocks lift off the floor. Then L5, L4, L3, L2, L1, ribs are still down. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. You're probably not going to lift much more than maybe the 8th rib, 7th ribs, and then lower right back down if you are avoiding the back bend. Okay, enough of that. Draw your leg right back into your torso, and we're going to bring the foot that's still on the floor to a little bit more of a central position. So you don't want it quite out to the side. Bring it in line with your belly button. Both hands to this knee that is bent up. Breath is in and out through the nose. You're going to start to, again, build that resistance and feel it across your core. Adjust as needed. Knee might be further and it might be closer. Foot might be across the body or it might be more neutral. Once you feel set in your core, big exhale. Press the pelvis up. 1. Yes. 2. Core plus glutes. 3. Where is your mind? 4. Keep it present. 5. Keep it still. 6. 7. Chatter about your self-worth. Completely obliterate it. Set it aside. And you've got this. Draw your knee to your chest, both of your knees. Rock a little side to side. For anybody who does have really overactive hip flexors, I recommend a knees wide child's pose. Other foot down to the floor. Second leg up in the air. Don't forget to flex the toes and the foot of the lifted leg. Abducting the toes, spreading them apart, and then keeping the toes up towards the eyes. So correct angle with the knee. The idea is that we're keeping the back really rooted as we do this. And the foot that's flat to the floor, you want to center it so it's in line with your belly button. Hands to the knee. Really, really kind of resist and create a little bit of resistance and upward action over that bowl, over that ledge of the knee. That's the vector of the arms. Big breath, back of the neck long, jaw relaxed. Once you've set your core, let's go ahead and rise and lower. By the way, if I happen to be making this look easy, it is not because I think it is easy. It's literally just because I've practiced this a lot recently. And the reason why I practice it a lot is because my body benefits from it. I kind of need it. So keep breathing into the ribs. Keep the core a part of this action. And of course, you're going to feel the leg you're standing on. I think we have 2 more to make it to 10 or 10-ish. Okay, come on down. Knees wide, rock a little side to side. And then roll right back onto your side. Rise up. Let's come onto our forearms this time to switch things up. Straighten out through crown of the head to your knees. Push out through the knees. You're going to squeeze your glutes, press the pelvis forward, and rise up just into this kind of truncated, arm cut off, legs cut off version of side plank. A nice long hold here, and grab your band again. For this one, you really are going to be better off with a resistance band. I'm only going to use one of the 2 legs of my leggings, and we're going to open and relax. Open, so the lats kick in, scapular retractors kick in, soften, slacken, open. You can kind of do this with a towel. Towels have a little bit of give to them. Last one. Beautiful. And relax it down. Sweep your knees in and out. Knees into the chest, parked on your elbow, and out, legs straight. This is Navasana, but on our side. Now, if your neck needs a little support, go ahead and scoop your top hand around it or behind it. That is around the head or behind the head. Hold it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Rise. Calm all those thoughts. Let's take it to the other side. We're starting with that truncated side plank. So shins down, forearm down, press the pelvis forward. When you get into a good position, use your resistance band or something stretchy to lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift. We've got one more. Pelvis is forward. Awesome. And then we're going to make it into knees up and legs out. Knees in and legs out. Support your head, pretty please. There's a harder version of this where the legs stay straight the whole time. So if anybody wants to turn up the volume on this activity, you can reach and lower, reach and lower. But this is a nice, steady medium. We've got a little bit of a hold coming up. So reach, squeeze the legs, float the toes, breathe. Yes. Awesome. A moment to recover, connect to breath, roll on the floor. We'll do a little bit more with side plank and its variations in just a moment. But for now, I want to teach you some of the ways that I have recently been getting into half Navasana, so Ardha Navasana. So boat pose is a big pose commonly taught in a lot of core yoga classes, although frankly, it is not a core pose. It's a hip flexor pose. And so Navasana is this, legs straight out in front of you. Sometimes toes are at eye height, sometimes they're higher. Ardha Navasana, or half boat pose, is you're kind of on your sacrum and your toes and your eyes are at the same height. And I always found that to be exhilarating and difficult. Let's go piece by piece how to do it. And what you'll find is that particularly for people who don't feel good sitting like this, kind of on your tailbone, you're going to be able to find variations of Ardha Navasana that do work for you. So let's look at just the legs. Flatten your back. And this will also help for folks who really feel a little too much in their hip flexors. So the first piece of breaking down Navasana is just one leg. Just take out all four limbs, take 3 of them out, you've got one left. This leg is in half boat pose, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing it across the body, out to the side, and I'm really connecting to my core to feel my low back really strongly root into the ground. There is not a crack between my low back. No sunlight's going to get through. You're not going to be able to slide a piece of paper under. I will put the brakes on that piece of paper, right? Bring this leg back in. Keep the back flattened down to the ground. Other leg out. And again, sweep it a little with control out to the side and across. If you need to go up a little bit higher, that's okay with me. Yes, excellent. Okay. Draw it in, set it down. Okay. Now we're going to go over the upper body. And the way to do that is to walk the feet out a little bit more. So far, so good, relatively easy. Prop yourself up on your elbows. And if this already bothers your neck, one of the things you can do here is just do some chin tucks that should help to stretch out the back of the neck, or actively just move your head a little side to side. Okay, So, assuming you don't have too much neck pain, you can wiggle your elbows out to the side so your fingers are pointing more inward. Elbows now look kind of like wings, and you're going to just reach one arm forward and then the other. Okay? And let me give one more option. So keep going with the arm reach if that's good for you. If this kind of stuff activates neck pain, it's just been a lot of folks talking to me about that recently. You can also, from your back, have your strap, towel, leggings band, and push your head into that as you come up. So right now I feel a lot of core kicking in. I'm going to push my head purposefully into the leggings. Gives me a little, has a little give, which feels nice. So I'm activating the deepest layer of neck muscles rather than relying on the big ones that pop up that can really be shortened with a forward head position. There's a lot of information there, but hopefully you found something useful for you. So, still doing this? Bless your dear heart. Take a break, shake it out, and should you be interested in that next challenge on our way to Navasana, you're going to reach one leg forward and the opposite arm forward. So that was my right leg, left arm, left leg, right arm. Toe comes out to eye height. Pretend the leggings or band is there, that you have a little something to push into. Okay, and then relax it down. Shake out your head and your neck, and we're going into the legs only. So flatten your back, activate your deep belly muscles, maybe place the hands on the knees, pushing gently up, creating that isometric. Hands to the back of the head now, so you know you're not using your arms, you're using your core strength. And you're going to straighten out your legs and just start to lower little by little. The moment your low back comes off the floor, flatten it and hang out there. If you think you can go a little further, go a little further, really focusing on your low back down to the floor. Okay? Let's do one more, just a 5-second hold, okay? Big exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yep, it's true. Your legs are going to be a lot higher than if they were in Ardha Navasana, almost certainly. And that's because your upper body is not rounding your spine to come into Ardha Navasana. So now one hand stays behind the head, push into that hand, other arm reaches forward. As you exhale, ribs drop down, curl up, hold it. Yes. Release, hands to the back of the head, switch the hand. Exhale, curl up, hold it. This is upper body only. If you can do both arms, of course, both arms forward and back. Walk your feet a little further away from one another. Keep up with what I just taught you. One arm, two arms, or you can have both hands behind the head if you need that kind of support. Or you can actually practice rising up and slow motion lowering down. Use your arms for a little momentum as needed. Rise it up and slow motion lower down. And so this is part of that. I'm going to pause this next time. Is the upper body version or portion of Ardha Navasana. Curl it down and pause. Bring your legs together, maybe add one leg and then the other. See how we built that? We built this version of Ardha Navasana just for you, just for your body. If that doesn't feel right, guess what? You've got a lot of other options, right? And there's even more that I could come up with, but we're going to leave it at that for today. Straighten out your legs. Spin to one side. Walk your hand out in front of your shoulder. If you are a little tender in your wrist, block is your friend here. We're going to bend the bottom knee, straighten the top leg, hand to the top hip, rise it up, come into this gate pose-like position. Again, the hand is a little in front of the shoulder. Scoop your ribs in. Core stays connected. Inner thigh helps us to sweep up. And if you feel supported here, you can stagger or stack your feet. Side plank. Lower down, and then tap your hand down to the floor, other arm to the sky. This is awesome with your stretchy band behind your back. And you're going to tap down or your yoga strap and up, or your leggings. Tap down. Leggings are made so well these days. Last one. Good. Kind of turn towards this leg. Scoop the leggings around your ribs, your strap, around your body. Full breath into the back body. Rise up and set your strap or leggings aside and make your way to the other side. Block is your friend. Legs go straight. And then bottom knee does bend. So get up onto that shin. Press down through the inner thigh of your top leg. Rise it up. Draw your ribs in. Create that stability before we add layers of movement onto it. So from here, big exhale. Option 2, stagger your feet, straighten your feet. Side plank energy, big smile. Ribs in, glutes active. Super slow motion, lower your bottom leg back down to the floor. Now you're in gate pose. No need for the block. We're grabbing our strap, or homemade version of it, and we're going to go up and down. As you go down, it's normal for the pelvis to shift backwards a little bit. As you come up, I want the pelvis, especially this glute on the side that you're kneeling on, to kind of come forward underneath your trunk a little bit. So you're going to tap down with the fingertips or the fist, up the strap with your rib cage. We've got one more of these. Rise it up, spin towards the long leg, draw the strap down behind your low ribs, round, breathe. Soften the shoulders, shake out the neck, or even just let it hang heavy. Rise it right back up to center. So as you're resting in a comfortable position, know that the breath is one of the most powerful ways to access the core. So you might think that some of these breathing cues are superfluous for a fitness workout or a core activator, but it's really one of the most powerful mechanisms we have to make sure that whatever core strengthening, quote unquote, we do on the mat extends off the mat and kind of interweaves into our daily lives. And the simplest thing that will help with that is breathing in and out through your nose. The second simplest thing is to breathe more into your upper back, especially between ribs, say 6 or 5 down to 10. So this lower portion of the rib cage, if you've been stuck like this or spent a lifetime doing back bends in yoga, as I have, you can really start to reset your body and get a more automated version of core activation by breathing and letting your diaphragm move in your low ribs area. It's abstract, but it's real. So let's make our way to standing. We haven't gotten there yet. Bring one leg in front of you, curl your toes back behind you if you're in kneeling like I was a moment ago. Rise all the way up. And let's separate the legs, grab our strap again, whatever version of the strap you've got going on today. Hands push behind you, and then push out behind you, and then bring the ribs back almost to meet that strap. We're going to activate the core a little bit in a partial triangle pose. Feet are about forearm distance apart, arms straight out to the side, and reach your hips to one side and then to the other. So far, this is like my favorite core class that I've taught in months. This is so much good stuff that we're going over in this practice today, and I really hope you'll come back to it again and again. So if you're not yet feeling your obliques, go a little bit further, and you can pulse into one side, working on making sure your rib cage doesn't flare out. And hopefully, you're not getting any of the snap, crackle, pops that sometimes happen with triangle pose, which is a good sign of maybe your hips not being super, super stable and ready for that extreme position. Triangle pose is yoga pose, relatively extreme position for the hips. Go ahead and spin, right toes out. Take a little bend in that knee and straighten. And then reach, grab your block, and we're gonna hold the block out in the palm of the right hand and go a little further. The more you straighten the arm, the longer the lever, the more the torque on your trunk. If you're getting any snap, crackle, pop, your job is to bend the knee, right? Focus more on the trunk rather than the hip. And if you are not getting any snap, crackle, pop, you can really go for it. Really reach it out. Back of the neck long. 2 more. Maybe 1 more. Never trust a movement instructor's counting skills. Other palm up, and turn your toes to the other direction as if you're about to go into triangle pose in this other direction. And then reach and back. Reach and back. Reach. Hips go opposite of the arm. Two more. And then rise it up. Whatever leg was in front as you came up, we're going to take the other one in front to lower ourselves back down through this half kneeling. Of course, if this bothers you, if it's not available for you, hands to your knees to help you get down to the floor, but try to build up to a place where you have less weight in your hand and more of it coming through just the legs. Find your way to kneeling again. Cushion your knees with your blanket as needed. And block is going to come out in front of you, or you can just take a pillow around your house. Lean back and forth. Lots of thigh strengthening happening here. Activation anyway. But I invite you to really draw the front hip points up, draw the ribs down, keep this little area glued to one another. So I've got my little high-waisted leggings on today, and I've got a couple of crop tops, my Yoga Anatomy Academy crop top, and I'm gluing those two together. See if I could maybe keep these seams touching and not let them come apart. That's tricky. It feels like I'm slouching, but I'm not, right? Don't let the peekaboo happen. Yes, 2 more. With the block out in front of you, if you can handle all of those things happening all at once. Or the arms by your side if you prefer. And then go ahead and side sit again. We're going to move into more of a plain Jane plank shape, but with the knees apart. And so we're going to first do plank on our backs, then in a face down position. And I really want you to feel and use the floor to help inform your plank. Front hip points up. I sound like a broken record player. Thighs really active, pushing down into the floor, back of the knees down into the floor. You're going to bring your arms up, and you can let your shoulder blades come around the side of the rib cage. In fact, I do recommend that. So with the arms up in the air, imagine that you're pushing the heel of your hand forward towards your toes just a little bit, like an isometric. Glutes active, front hip points up, thighs back, shoulders up, big breath out. Notice how fiercely active your core is. Chin drops down to lengthen the back of the neck. If you need a little blanket under your head, you can do that. And then we're going to try to mimic everything that's happening here. The straight knees, the slightly rounded upper back, the extra activated core, and the glutes when we come belly down. Roll over. Stay on your knees. Find this knees to crown of the head version of plank. And this is the place where you can start to control your pelvis. In fact, feel free to join me in a posterior pelvic tilt. Posterior pelvic tilt, like you're just practicing what some yoga teachers call tucking the tailbone. Really, in fact, it's not your tailbone moving at all. It's your pelvis, and it's the front hip points up towards your low ribs. Now, if that feels like a challenge for you, stay there. Otherwise, widen the space between your feet. Yep, you want the feet nice and wide from one another. Curl your toes under, toenails towards the sky. Hands just a little bit in front of your shoulders, as you can see where I am. And as you straighten your legs, glutes active, back of the knees to the sky. Spin your toes over to the right, over to the left, over to the right, over to the left, over to the right, over to the left. This is our fireworks to close out our practice today. Breathe into it. Hips down. You can see mine creeping up. There you go. Last one. Back to center. Settle your knees. Rock it back to child's pose. Couple of breaths in child's. Feel free to have your head resting on your block or your block between your feet. As your heart rate and your breathing rate start to soften, slow down a little bit. We're going to bring the arms out in front. Just interlace your fingers. And sometimes this is taught as rabbit pose, but we're going to put very little pressure in the head, okay? So it's a softness at the back, at the head, soft, what's the word? Tactile contact between the back of the head and the hands. And I'm just rounding into the upper back a little bit. One last one, and we're going to hold it, breathing into the upper back for just a moment. So this is very similar to what we did with the strap in the beginning. I'm going to let my head dangle. If you have nothing going on your neck, you feel pretty happy pushing your head into your hands like that, you can do that. I'm just going to focus on grounding through the elbows, rounding my upper back, breathing. Hips shift a little side to side. Shake out your head if it's not fully in contact with your hands. And then make your way either onto your back for Shavasana or join me in a seated meditation. Again, you can be seated however feels good to you. One hand to your chest, one hand to your belly. Your hands are giving you some tactile feedback right now about where your physiology is, your heart rate, your respiratory rate. Your hands can be in these positions if you're on your back or in seated. If you're on your back, you're welcome to keep your knees bent and your feet flat, or to straighten out your legs, optional. pillow or blanket under the knees. As any thoughts come up, imagine they're like the pulp in a fruit juice, and let it slowly sink to the bottom of the glass. There's no need to get attached to our thoughts, to follow through with them. Just let them settle. A gentle scan of the body. Notice if you're holding on to anything anywhere, from the jaw to the space between the eyebrows, around the ears, the heart, the shoulders, the glutes, the belly. The floor is here to support you. Because we're in the virtual space, if you want to shut this off and stay longer in meditation or shavasana, it's so easy to do that. Suspend this state for as long as you can. And if you prefer, you can join me in initiating a little bit bigger wiggle into your fingers, or a little bit of a wiggle into your fingers, a little bit of a bigger breath. Any other gentle movements that would feel good? Maybe it's your toes, maybe it's your shoulders if you're in seated, wrists. And as you are ready, gently draw your knees to your chest if you're on your back. Roll to your side. Find your way to seated, either palms together over the heart in Anjali Mudra, or one hand to your chest, one hand to your belly. And invite this sense of gratitude to wash over you for all the health that you brought to this practice. There is no one size fits all yoga. And certainly some of these more challenging classes can feel exclusionary to others. This is not our intention. Our intention is instead to uplift. And one of the best ways we can do that is to truly honor the great privilege of whatever health and well-being we bring to this moment. knowing that it is not equally available to all, and just breathing into whatever gratitude you feel for whatever health you bring, glass half full, to now. This brings us full circle. I hope you feel fully immersed in the now, fully immersed in gratitude, still or at least slowed down in your thoughts. Know that I appreciate you so very, very much. Feel free to bow down to whatever it is you feel grateful for. And as you lift up, open up your eyes, coming back into the space, connecting back into the external world. So much gratitude going forward. Thank you for being here.